I and the Song family's child bride. It's okay, as he is vague about which son of his family will marry me. She relied on my embroidery work to support her son's education. They dared to abuse me. I picked up my bag and went home. The second son of his family became anxious and promised to marry me, so I took a bigger step. He also said that there would be no work in the evening, so I ran a few steps. He also promised to leave me an egg every day. I stopped and said, "Okay then." Many years later, his second son had grown up and asked me with red eyes, "You said you would marry me." I showed a nonchalant expression. "Master Guan, please think about it again."
1.
I earned the position of Song family's adopted daughter-in-law through my embroidery skills. The second son in his family was studying to take imperial examinations, but he did not have enough money. Otherwise, this good thing would not be my turn. It's because his son Dalong is a hard-working and capable man, recognized by everyone in the area as an expert at household chores. I saw with my own eyes that he could lift a bundle of firewood with just his little finger. The young girls and wives in the village are all very fond of her. Me too. He was happily waiting for the Song family to come and pick him up, and it turned out to be his Dalong. I was wearing a flowery dress and following behind him. This man has long legs and takes big steps, so I have to walk faster to appear happy. He ignored me, so I started talking to him. "Brother Song, I can't keep up. How about you carry me on your back?" He didn't even turn his head. "Second brother will definitely be shot. I can't carry you." That's what happened. The only requirement my father had for agreeing to this marriage was, if Song Jin succeeds, he must marry me. If he fails, Song Yi will marry me. Song Yi is a bit stupid, so I had to enlighten him. "Do you think your parents will still let me marry my second brother after he gets pregnant? Will he still be willing to marry me?" He stopped and said, "We'll talk about it later." I smiled sweetly. It's good that Brother Song knows Baoju's feelings. During the rest of the journey, he was willing to talk to me. Not only is this guy tough in size, but his words are also tough. He would just say, "Hurry up, keep up, run a few steps." This won't do. She needs some proper discipline.
2.
The Song family is shameless. On the first night, they made me work by the light of a lamp. I've told you I have night blindness, but you still won't give up. Aunt Song hurriedly found a few candles and asked, "Is that enough? Is that enough?" This is too much. The long-term workers employed by the rich families should also have a rest. Besides, I didn't even have enough dinner. I couldn't bear it any longer, so I packed my bags while uttering harsh words. "Tomorrow, my parents will come to take back the 20 taels of silver as my dowry." Seeing that they were all anxious, I picked up my bag and walked out. He discovered that his family was in chaos and the youngest son was in charge. Song Jin followed me and advised, "Sister Baoju, don't be angry." I ignored him and walked away until everything was pitch black. He made promises to me without any context. "Baoju, I chose you myself. I will definitely marry you after we graduate from high school. You don't choose who you want to be. I chose your elder brother. But for now I have to adopt a roundabout tactic so that you can study first." The thought of having to support a gigolo made her so angry that she took even bigger steps. He asked in confusion, "Doesn't Sister Baoju have night blindness?" I asked back, "Do I have night blindness? Don't I know it? How can one pass the imperial examination with this brain?" He understood. "You don't have to work at night. My sister is smart and can adjust the work herself." My mother said that if a man thinks a woman is smart, then it's over. There is nothing good to be gained from this man. I hurriedly ran a few steps. What a joke. Do I need his permission to slack off? He seemed to finally remember the eggs on the dining table that I had been staring at for a long time. "Leave an egg for your sister every day, okay?" I stopped and said, "Okay then." It was pitch dark. Although I couldn't see his face clearly, I could hear him laughing at me. What a joke. You really thought I was doing this for an egg. I want to give them a warning and let them know that I am not someone you can mess with. I also asked for an egg to nourish myself. Occasionally give one to Song Yi. 3. I couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, so I squatted in the corner and eavesdropped. The two elders of the Song family were indeed talking about me. Aunt Song said angrily. I thought she was easy to control, but who knew she was so overbearing and vulgar? She is really not worthy of being married to Erling. It's too embarrassing. Master Song said something shocking. Go to sleep and don't think about it. If Erling passes the imperial examination, it won't be easy for him to take care of a girl. I am very confused. What does processing mean? I know they never thought of letting me marry Song Jin. I don't know if they want to kill me after they run out of energy. What happened next was a bit awkward. Mr. Song. Now that we are relieved, we can have another baby to keep us company and relieve boredom. Aunt Song. It's finally over. A lady is the best. She's considerate. I won't listen to that. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he was caught by Song Yi. He had a stern face and was about to speak. At this time, some unbearable noises came from the house. He walked in front and signaled me to follow with his eyes. I pretended not to understand, and he turned around and pulled me away. He was tall, and he lowered his head and questioned me. Why are you squatting under the window of your parents' room? I answered frankly. I wanted to eavesdrop. His face was full of disbelief. Fearing that he might misunderstand me, I answered truthfully. I want to hear who my future husband will be. He said expressionlessly. We'll know when the time comes. It will be too late by then. Your father said that he would deal with me after your second brother passed the imperial examination. The word deal with is very serious. His reaction was not good, but I had my own way of getting away. But he said, don't worry, I'm here. I looked back at him with admiration. Brother Song Yi's words put Baozhu at ease. I still remember that my mother once told me that among all the talented young men in the area, Song Dalong was the most conscientious. My mother also said that it is better for a woman to marry a husband with a conscience than anything else. The smile on his face had not yet faded when a sound came from afar. Song Jin was tall and slender, with a face that usually looked pure and calm, but now it was visibly cold. What are you doing? I'm talking to Brother Song Yi. Why aren't you resting yet, second brother? What do you call me second brother? He said anxiously. I said to him earnestly, go and have a rest. Your elder brother and I work so hard to support you in your studies. You should be worthy of our efforts. As I spoke, I patted Song Jin's shoulder. I knew he would touch me, but I didn't know he would touch my fingers. Wang Baozhu, you have to give me an explanation. I pull my hand away immediately. Your brother is watching. Don't do anything. You think I can't pass the exam? How could that be? I waved my hand and turned back to my room. He can pass the exam or not.
4.
The next day, the whole family had breakfast. Song Jin's words almost choked me to death. He said, I haven't been able to rest well recently. I think only consummating the marriage can relieve the pain. I held my rice bowl in my hand and said in shock, second brother, who are you going to consummate your marriage with? Everyone looked at me. Song Yi lowered his head and started eating. Mr. Song nodded, and Mrs. Song quickly responded, we'll arrange it tonight. Song Jin stared at me nonchalantly for a while. Are you declaring war on me? This girl is not a vegetarian. As soon as it got dark, I sneaked into Song Yi's room. She tried to get into his arms, but he dodged her. I yelled, Brother Song Yi, why are you touching my waist? Song Yi was so frightened that he stepped back repeatedly. You are night blind and can't see clearly. It's a table. I threw myself in his direction, but was dodged again. She yelled again, Brother Song Yi, why are you touching me here? Song Yi picked me up and walked out. I said embarrassedly in front of their whole family, we're going to consummate our marriage today, so I thought about asking Brother Song Yi to fetch me another bucket of water, but I couldn't even refuse. Song Yi was speechless and said, it hit the wooden table. Of course you can't push it open. Mr. Song threw something in front of him with great force. Aunt Song became furious instantly, turned around, found a big stick, and hit Song Yi with it. I finally got the marriage with the Zhao family, and you're making a scene like this? The Zhao girl may not look good, but she's strong and a perfect match for you. How dare you, a big, rough guy like you, Dream of a coquettish girl. She's your brother's. I was stunned. How could this be possible? 5. I didn't sleep well all night. During the day, she pretended to work embroidering while they were working in the fields or going to school. I ran back to my parents' home to discuss countermeasures. After listening to what I said, my mother glanced at my father's peeping look and slammed the table and stood up. Tell me, what's going on? Dad replied softly, the Zhao butcher family has a dowry of 30 taels, which we can't afford. Besides, wouldn't it be better if our daughter could become an official's wife in the future? You too know that my greatest wish in this life is to pass the imperial examination. I really don't know what's wrong with you two to choose his eldest son. Mother interrupted him and asked in a deep voice, so you and the two old men from the Song family secretly promised your daughter to the second son. Dad nodded in agreement. He emphasized the word privately very strongly. What my mother means is that if there is no fourth person in the world who knows about this, then everything can still follow the previous rules. My mother gave me a look, and I picked up the hoe and went to the market. He aimed at Zhao the butcher's stall and started smashing and cursing at it. You want to steal my man, huh? Then forget it. Aunt Zhao, who was protected by Butcher Zhao, pointed at me and cursed. You little bitch. What are you talking about? I howled at the top of my lungs. You know in your heart whether I have said anything nonsense or not. Anyway, I have already married into the Song family. I am not afraid of being embarrassed. If you dare to steal my man, I will come to smash and shout every day. Butcher Zhao stopped Aunt Zhao, probably because he was worried that the matter would get out of hand and have a bad impact. Zhao Moli, your life is a little better than mine. I have a mother who loves me, and she has parents who love her. That night, the Song family's yard was in chaos. Butcher Zhao and his family of 3 came to the door and demanded justice. Zhao Moli stood between her parents and glared at me fiercely. I stood beside my mother, gathering my courage. The mother said calmly, "It is my family's fault today, so I will take my daughter home." She grabbed my hand and was about to leave. That's not right. My mother just said to me, considering the Song family's reputation, my precious daughter has to bear the grievance and give up his second son first, and then marry Song Yi. The Song family doesn't know what's good for them, and they want both, so don't be afraid of losing face. You were so fierce when you threatened me just now. Why are you admitting your mistake now? After we took just 2 steps, the 2 elders of the Song family became anxious and ran over to stop us. Aunt Song looked at my mother with fear. Master Song spoke out of character. What are you talking about, dear in-laws? This is all a misunderstanding. Why didn't Baoju's father come? The mother did not answer, but asked arrogantly. I, a woman, have always had the final say in matters concerning the Wang family. Don't you know that? Mr. Song nodded repeatedly. I have heard a little bit about it. Please come in and talk. My mother straightened her back and looked towards Zhao the butcher's family. Her meaning was very clear. Let's get rid of them first and talk about it later. Master Song gritted his teeth and winked. Aunt Song quickly returned to the house, took out 30 taels of silver and pushed it into Aunt Zhao's arms. These 2 children are incompatible. There is nothing we can do about it. With tears in her eyes, Zhao Moli was taken away by her parents. Everyone in the village knows about my marriage with the Song family. They want to operate behind the scenes, but I put the matter out in the open, and they dare not say a word. My mother is so amazing. She solved the problem with just a few words. Everyone looks good. My mother's most amazing skill is her embroidery. She even helped my father, who is not very competitive, become a scholar. I have also inherited the true skills, and I also have to provide for men. Everyone in the yard knew that if they wanted to betray Song Jin, the 30 taels would not be enough. I was in a good mood today. Song Jin brought me eggs as usual, and I peeled them and ate them. He looked at me with a calm expression, but his tense voice revealed his terrible mood at the moment. Baoju, why do you all like him? I chewed and chewed. Brother, you want to be great and become a high-ranking official. How can a girl in the village be worthy of you? Whether I am worthy or not, is it just up to you to say it? I chewed and chewed. When my second brother becomes a high-ranking official in the future, how could he look down on us country girls from a poor mountain village? You haven't asked me, so how do you know whether I think it's worth it or not? A talented man and a beautiful woman go together. Even children know that. Don't you know that? That doesn't make sense. Everyone in the village knows that your elder brother should be paired with someone like me and Jasmine, and you should be paired with a lady from a wealthy family or a daughter of an official. Now you know, right, second brother? Don't call me second brother. Me. Second brother, second brother, second brother? Mouth blocked. I'm not clean anymore. Smells like eggs. After he gave in, he said with a smug look on his face, Baoju, now you have to marry me. Pa, I don't care about innocence or not. If I marry him, I will be a concubine or a maid. Or a wife who died young. I'm not stupid. 6. After this incident, when I went to give eggs to Song Yi again, he no longer refused. Because I brainwashed him. I make all the money in this family, and you do all the work. It's not enough for the two of us to eat an egg. Just eat it, just eat it. He didn't stand away from me like before, he just nodded and said, well, you can eat it by yourself. I must give him half. It's also a scumbag. You have to be sneaky to eat half an egg. I hadn't even eaten it a few times when I was discovered. Aunt Song saw Song Yi and I squatting in the corner eating eggs, and she seemed to have gone crazy. The big stick fell hard on Song Yi, and he cursed him while beating him. This precious thing is for you to eat, and you dare to steal it? I will beat you to death. You are so greedy. I cleared my throat and said, you told me this. I am just greedy. What's wrong with me being greedy? I work so hard all day long, but I don't even get an egg to eat. I can't live this way. I can't take good care of my body and give birth to a son. It's useless. It's better for me to live alone for the rest of my life. I can earn money and spend it by myself. I can eat 10 eggs a day without having to worry about anyone's face. Aunt Song saw that I was angry and became frightened. Baoju, Auntie didn't say anything to you. I was furious. Brother Song is not in good health and can't have a baby. Aunt Song patted my back and said, he's as strong as a bull. Don't worry, he can have children. But from then on, there were no eggs to eat. Seeing Song Jin again, he looked apologetic. Mother insisted on watching me finish my meal before leaving. Sister Baoju, do you want to eat something else? I waved my hands. No thanks. A few days later, Song Yi made a rare trip to the city to sell my embroidery. I whispered to him, Brother Song Yi, I want to eat sweet-scented osmanthus cake. It touched his ear, and it felt hot. He didn't hide, but frowned and replied in embarrassment, all the money in the family is useful. When I heard this, I got furious. Who was responsible for this? I forced myself to soften my tone and said, I want to eat it. If you give me a kiss, you can buy it for me, okay? He took a few steps back and said, I'll buy it for you if I find it. Then he walked away quickly. I shouted at his back, Brother Song Yi, it's not yet. He interrupted hastily. Let's talk about it later. Song Yi did bring back the osmanthus cake, but he also brought back bad news. The government is going to recruit soldiers, and one has to pay 100 taels of silver to be exempted from military service. Only Song Yi can go to this house. 7. I heard that the weather at the border was bitterly cold, so I made clothes and socks for Song Yi overnight. The material is thick and the stitches are extremely fine and dense, making it durable and warm. After it was finished, Aunt Song picked it up and said cheerfully, it's too big and too thick. It won't fit Dalong. I'm giving it to Erlang for his imperial examination. Does she know what she is talking about? Fortunately, Song Jin still has some conscience. His eyes were dark as he stared at my face. Sister Baoju, I'm afraid you don't know my size. Next time, you should measure me. For him? Wait. On the day of farewell, every household in the village turned out, but no one could come up with 100 taels of silver. It is still unclear whether I can come back after this trip. Before leaving, I talked to Song Yi for a few words, and I choked up as I spoke. Brother Song Yi, you must come back safely. Don't break any limbs. You rely on this body to support the family. I don't want to work so hard to embroider after getting married. I'm afraid you won't be able to come back." He smiled, looked me in the face for the first time, and said, "Wait for me to come back. Then my second brother won't be able to study? He'll figure it out himself. It's easier said than done. Once you've stayed at his house for a day, it'll be hard to go back. My mother gave me a plan in mind. What can I do? I'll just slack off. Anyway, only my mother can tell whether I'm working hard or not." During those years of waiting for Song-yi, I thought it would be as hard as it could be. Little did I know that something even more bitter and difficult was waiting for me.
8.
My thoughts were relatively simple at that time. I just thought that I had no pocket money left, and it was difficult to buy anything to eat. Song-yi, this gigolo, was quite considerate and bought me some osmanthus cake. "I don't want it," he asked doubtfully. "Doesn't Sister Baoju like it?" "I don't really like it. I prefer eggs." What's more, he can eat his eggs, but he has to eat his elder brother's osmanthus cake. The most disgusting thing is that his eyes seem to say, "Look, I bought you some delicious food, okay?" He eats my food, wears my clothes, and buys me food, and I should thank him? It's totally unjust. I couldn't help but sneer. "I make money for you to squander? You use my hard-earned money to buy this." He has no shame at all. He actually smiled calmly and spoke to me with confidence. "Sister Baoju, you have to believe me. I will definitely pass the high school entrance exam. I'll give you half of the credit, okay?" It was all my credit. It would be a waste if I didn't eat the osmanthus cake, so I ate it.
9.
3 years have passed since Song-yi left, and there has been no news of him. I'm 18 now, a grown-up girl. My mother would sigh from time to time. Fortunately, there is still a way. Then he asked me tentatively, "Do you want to continue waiting?" I insisted. Fortunately, Song-yi returned safe and sound. He looked stronger, and I thought he would hug me, or at least give me a smile. But he was unmoved by my enthusiasm. I knew it was going to be bad. Casualties are inevitable in war, and Zhao the butcher died on the battlefield. Song-yi rebelled against his parents for the first time and insisted on marrying his comrade-in-arms daughter, Zhao Moli. Song-jin took pleasure in the misfortune and picked up the egg in his hand with a smile on his face. "It seems like this egg is meant for me. You think I'm disgusting? Then don't go to this school." My mother asked me, "Are you still going to fight?" I smiled and replied, "What are you arguing about?" My mother finally couldn't hold back her tears and hugged me tightly. "My son has a miserable life." I thought to myself that it was not so bad. There were many more people whose lives were more miserable than mine. Juanzi was not given any rest when she was about to have her baby. She worked too hard and not only lost her child, but was also scolded for having a son. Aunt Lu, even at her old age, had to wash clothes for others day and night to earn money for the wine business of the boss she mentioned. Xiangxiu's parents died early, and the family property was swallowed up by various relatives. She had no choice but to sell herself in order to make a living. I'm fine. I'm not at the end of my rope.
10.
My parents soon came to the Song family's door. Song-jin understood the purpose of his parents' visit and stared at me with eyes as sharp as swords. The two elders of the Song family were slower to react. After they understood, they rejected the idea outright. Take the pearl away? That's impossible. It seemed like my mother was about to have a fit. Song-jin stood up and bowed respectfully to my parents. When I was discussing marriage, there were several other families. Because I was attracted to my sister Baoju, I asked my parents to arrange the marriage. I thought that I would definitely marry my sister after the marriage. It's not that I don't know what my sister wants, but I just can't bear to let her go. Now, because of my selfishness, I have delayed my sister for several years. I feel ashamed, but I still don't want to give up. Can you give me a few more days? His tone was sincere, and his words were soothing. Dad responded quickly and nodded repeatedly. Okay. Mother didn't say anything, and I knew she was weighing the pros and cons. Because I was already a grown-up girl and had lived in the Song family for several years. I can't find a good match. That night, Song Jin came to talk to me. He seemed to be still angry. When you were little, you loved playing with me the most and praised me for my delicate skin and tenderness and how I was the most obedient and adorable. Now that you have grown up, you like strong men and you don't even look down on me. You hurt my heart. This really happened. I was young and ignorant at that time, and I didn't know how to be nice. He laughed angrily, then rubbed my head a few times and said, "You keep talking nonsense all day long. Besides, what have you done to me over the years? You should give me a chance." Then he promised solemnly, "I know you don't believe me, but can't you believe me once? Just wait for me to succeed. It will be soon. Sister Baoju, give me a chance, okay?" Song Jin reached out and held my fingers, and this time, I didn't pull away. He became more and more aggressive, putting his face close to me and motioning for me to answer. Then let me think about it. His smile was so brilliant that I almost fell for it. Little did I know at the time that I would deeply regret this decision. It seems that Song Jin is indeed quite knowledgeable and has become a prominent figure. He begged me. Recently, there are often women coming to peek outside the academy, and some even come to talk to me. It's really annoying. Sister Baoju, please come forward and send them away. I ridiculed him out of habit. Don't be so self-indulgent. There are so many students in the college. How do you know they're looking at you? She shook him off and lowered her head to work. I don't have the time. I'm busy embroidering and taking care of you. Then I'll have to trouble Sister Baoju to take care of you. When she said this, Song Jin became shameless. He was trying to be brave, but he actually got into trouble. Before he could get excited, he heard that Song Jin was captured by the son-in-law hunters. 11. He is lucky, the Bai family is wealthy, and the eldest daughter of the Bai family is beautiful. Oh, now you should call me second madam. The two elders of the Song family gave me the title of a maid. This is not running away. I failed to escape because Song Jin used his quick and tough tactics to pin me down. He also said, "Now it is not up to you." After finishing, he licked his face and asked, "Are you satisfied, Sister Baoju?" I snorted. That's it. He pinched my waist and acted fierce. Sister Baoju, please remember this. It doesn't matter what nonsense you say on a normal day, but this matter cannot be resolved. He just kept pestering me. I didn't succeed, but I'm very stubborn. He hugged me and, in a coaxing tone, scolded me for being heartless and unteachable. It's disgusting, right? Who is so heartless? Who is so ignorant? Afterwards, Song Jin ignored the objections of his parents and wife and let me be his concubine. Aunt Song stopped working and went to the village entrance every day to talk to someone. After all, it turns out that I am not worthy of his youngest son. I can't even read a word. I'm so uncouth and so ugly. We are really not a good match. Everyone in the village agreed with her, and no one dared to question the old man's family. I thought that since the Song family had married into a wealthy family, I wouldn't have to work so hard. Who would have thought that Song Jin had the guts to not spend the Bai family's money? I have to support his whole family. He was also keen on playing the game of talented scholar and beautiful lady with me. Whenever he takes me on a boat trip, he always says a few elegant words to praise the beautiful women and the beautiful scenery. I had no choice but to answer him, yes, yes, the boat is so big, the water is so wide, and there are so many people. He became quiet and stopped talking. Song Jin was in the mood and wanted to teach me how to write. They must have forgotten that my father is a scholar and I don't need his teaching. This gave me the opportunity to sarcastically retort, I have a lot of important things to do, such as embroidery and supporting my family. I don't have time for useless things. He chuckled and pinched my face. If you don't want to learn, then don't learn. Why are you mocking me as your husband? You can learn later when you have figured it out. It's not good for a mother to be illiterate. This is a sign of abandonment of me. Song Jin knocked on my head again. Don't let your imagination run wild. It's obviously you, the heartless one, who is complaining about others. He came to bother me again in the evening. I was angry and kicked him off the bed. I am very tired and I really don't have the energy to deal with you. He brushed the dirt off his butt and climbed onto the bed reluctantly. He also promised that he would give me an explanation after some time. I spent another 3 miserable years as a concubine in the Song family. Song Jin became more and more successful. Not only did he pass the imperial examination, but he was also highly valued. The second madam truly loved Song Jin. She ignored me and never made things difficult for me. Sometimes she would suddenly ask me, "What is Song Jin like about you?" How would I know? But he is my master, so I have to respond. He might be sick. The second lady was amused by me. The 2 elders of the Song family couldn't hold back their anger, and they have been looking at me with increasing displeasure lately. Whenever Aunt Song had a chance, she would remind her second daughter-in-law, "This bitch is disobedient, so teach her a lesson. I'm in charge of you, and you can do whatever you want to her." The little friendship that my Song family had with her is over. The second lady looked down on her and did not take her words seriously. My reputation became worse and worse. Old Madame Song spread the news everywhere, saying that I was seeking repayment for a favor by climbing into her son's bed, which was so shameless. As someone's concubine, I can only suffer in vain. Life is manageable. It wasn't until I saw murderous intent in Mr. Song's eyes that he seemed to hate me to the core. When he got angry, he would smash pots and bowls all day long, as if he was dissatisfied with everything in the house. I understand him. He is looking forward to his son's success and to living a good life. However, reality gave him a slap in the face. His family was still poor, and the quality of life was the same as before. It was probably not the good life he had imagined. I sensed that the situation was not going well, so I confronted Song Jin. "Your parents wanted to kill me. Did you know that?"
12.
He got anxious and asked me, "Why do you think I've been leaving early and coming back late these days?" Then he excitedly leaned over and whispered in my ear that I had hooked up with some important person. He also promised, "Just wait a little longer." Then he took me to a place where no one lives. I didn't want to go either. It was the Song family's elders who wanted to get rid of me. It was too obvious. There was also a handsome and noble young man traveling with them. When he saw me, he looked unhappy and said, "I didn't bring any children with me, and you brought a girl with you?" I begged with my eyes full of begging. "To answer, master, I am not a girl. I am Brother Song Jin's lover. If you don't take me with you, I will be killed when you come back." Mr. Jin Goe was very disgusted with me and asked Song Jin, "She has no control over her mouth. Can she be trusted?" Song Jin nodded. Mr. Jin crossed his arms and looked up at me. "This trip is top secret. If you dare to talk nonsense, you will lose your head. Do you understand?" I replied like a lackey. Okay. Why do you say he is rich?" "He has so many things to do. He even has to test for poison before eating or drinking. Going out to do business is like going for an outing, and you even bring a chef with you. I have to say, the food we ate along the way was really delicious, all of which were delicious things I had never seen before." The further he went, the poorer he became, and slowly, there was nothing good to eat. As they walked further, not only was there nothing to eat, but things were getting more and more strange between them. As soon as they stepped into that area, they had difficulty breathing. They lay there for as long as we stayed there, and it was completely useless. It made me tired again, because farm-style cooking is really not the chef's specialty. After eating this for a few days, I couldn't stand it anymore and paid for the meals for the 3 of us. The other few strong men who were good at cooking were really too big eaters and continued to be abused by the chef. I made some big pancakes and chive dumplings and ate them with fresh spinach soup and some pickled vegetables. It was a good meal for both of them. Song Jin's eyes were filled with amazement. I didn't expect Sister Baozhu to have such a skill. The noble young man would ask all day long, "Baozhu, what are you going to eat later and tomorrow morning?" They were both getting more and more exhausted, and their breathing was becoming more and more difficult. The tasks I was asked to do were increasing.
13.
Song Jin asked me to help him find books in his bookcase several times. I get angry when I look at the fish bubble. Throwing it in his face, she said, "Why do you have to bring this thing?" He smiled wickedly and lowered his voice. "How about Sister Baozhu do it herself?" I rolled up my sleeves. wanting to teach him a lesson. Don't cry later, kid. The guy in the next room, cough, 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 looks like he's about to die. I gave him some water to drink, and he asked me to test it for poison. I drank it all in one gulp. He who grumbles about nothing is not thirsty. He squinted at me. Vulgar. That's right, they are too weak to get up from the bed, so I have to go and dig with them. A month or so passed, and nothing could be dug up. They were becoming increasingly anxious. I was feeling angry because I heard them scolding those strong men every day, so I thought to myself, let's see if they dare to scold me. One day, when the meal was not prepared in time, the nobleman suddenly put pressure on me. As soon as the rice entered his mouth, he gave me a dissatisfied look and ordered, "Don't think I can't see you being lazy. Just behave yourself."
Got it.
They are like they are in confinement after childbirth, doing nothing, and yet they still have the nerve to criticize me. I don't care about who is who and what is not, I have to go back. If you can do it, go ahead. If you can't, stop complaining, okay? Are useless people qualified to talk? You two are digging this mine, and that mine. You're just digging a hole. He laughed. Baozhu, are you really that angry? I dared to scold him because, after spending a few months with him, I found that he was still a kind-hearted person, even too enthusiastic. Seeing that the farmers had a difficult life, he called upon the strong men who had just been digging in the mines and then helped the family who had taken us in to harvest the autumn harvest. As a result, everyone was tired. As luck would have it, when a group of assassins suddenly appeared, I was unable to defeat them. I was squatting in the corner shivering and heard a strong man ask the young master whether he wanted to keep the person alive. He didn't even blink and said in his usual gentle voice, "Kill him, he's just my good brother." As the noble son was injured, Song Jin rode as fast as he could back to the capital to report. Lin walked by and whispered in my ear, "Don't get too close to that person, just don't let him die." I answered obediently, "I know." After this battle, we suffered heavy losses. The remaining few strong men were also injured. The injured young man had difficulty walking, so he insisted that I be his human crutch. Seeing that everyone was in a bad condition, I was extremely scared. I'm afraid that if another group of assassins comes, my life will be lost here. Miss Bai may not kill me, and the two elders of the Song family may not be able to deal with me. This trip really made me feel like my head was hanging on my belt. A few days later, another group of assassins really came, all dressed in black, riding their horses at full speed. The injured young master and I were dozing off in the carriage, and when I saw that something was not going right, I turned around and looked at him. He held out his hand to me, meaning to help him up, and I jumped out of the car and ran as fast as I could. I saw it long ago. The assassin was coming for him. I thought that once they caught the target person, they would stop chasing after me. Who knew they were so inhumane and kept pursuing me? When I saw the injured young man being supported by someone, pointing at me unharmed, he said contemptuously, "Wang Baozhu, you are just a coward who is greedy for life and afraid of death." Then I realized that it was one of our own who caused the trouble. He pointed at my hand for a long time and refused to let go. I lowered my head in shame and pouted. I couldn't even curse at him. I was just afraid. He took the opportunity and grumbled at me for a few days, then insisted on eating some fresh spinach soup. You can't stop it, right? I've just had a few good days. Moreover, he even smiled at me when no one was around. Wang Baozhu, put away your reluctance. You don't know how many people are willing to cook for me. What a character. Song Jin is really good. He is directly clinging to the next boss. He seemed to be showing off, so I gave him enough face and knelt down quickly. Long live the prince. He snorted. Stop talking nonsense. I want to ask you, Song Jin once asked me to do this, to cancel his engagement and marry you instead. Are you willing? I answered truthfully. If there is a better choice, I would not do it. He curled his lips and said, "Since you are sensible, I can make you a concubine. With your intelligence, you will not be bullied." I was shocked and asked, "Is the reason I live to avoid being bullied?" He looked puzzled and asked tentatively, "Are you still not satisfied?" "It's not impossible for you to be a concubine, it's just more troublesome." I interrupted him. I want to open a large embroidery studio that can accommodate many women who have nowhere to go, so that everyone can at least have something to eat. Seeing that he was not unhappy, she asked tentatively, I also want to be able to choose the person I like to marry. So, who do you like? I haven't encountered any yet. He imitated my little tricks, curled his lips, and said arrogantly, Father dotes on me so much that it would be easy for him to take you down. I also laughed. My mother dotes on me. She said that if possible, I should choose a husband who I like and has a conscience. So, what's wrong with Songjin? He repaid my kindness with hatred and forced me to become his concubine. He nodded and asked, Where is I? You have a good heart and won't make things difficult for others. I have no conscience either. You have. Humph, you are the most heartless one. I was not mistaken. This man really means what he says. He always keeps his word.
14.
Songjin also came on the opening day of my embroidery studio. He glanced at my widow's hairstyle, closed his eyes tightly, but was still furious. I didn't even know when I died. I don't have time to entertain Master Song today.
Goodbye.
Come back with me when you're done.
No.
His whole demeanor became more and more different. He wanted to use his status to put pressure on me. Do you think you can refuse? I really can. Look, the big boss behind the scenes has also come to join in the fun. Lord Song, you have such great authority. Why are you coming to my place to cause trouble? Song Jin suppressed his anger and asked him in a deep voice, Why? I can't help it. She has put me here and insisted that I am the most conscientious person in the world. Do you believe what she said? Just be quiet. It's not your turn anyway. Song Yi's eyes were already red, and he still questioned me. Sister Baozhu, you said you would marry me. I showed a puzzled expression. Don't talk nonsense. Go back and think about it again. Then he quickly sent the distinguished guest away. My lord, what are you doing here? We are all poor people. Please don't bring any more trouble to us. 15. As the embroidery workshop grew, the volume of goods also increased. Often deal with valet walkers. Among them, I have the best impression of the Jiang family. The Jiangs are people of noble character, and it is a pleasure to work with them. Recently, the embroidery business has been taken over by his youngest son. He is a strong man who works steadily and steadily. I often see him moving piles of goods without even taking a breath. The more we met, the more familiar we became. But when we didn't intend to make eye contact while talking, he would always avoid my gaze immediately. The kind where your ears turn red. He likes me. I asked him, Young Master Jiang, are you married? He waved his hands quickly. No. Neither do I. His eyes flashed with a tiny light. I don't know what to say when I see you. I put away my smile and said, I don't know, forget it. I want to marry you. Then I married someone I liked and who had a conscience.